Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm going to be talking about challenges and barriers as a woman of colour working in the Metropolitan Police Service. I've been working there for over 15 years now, so it might give you a bit of an indication as to how old I am, but I'm not going to go into details. Second, third generation, British-born, Muslim Pakistani, and I joined the Met Police back in January 2009. And I've managed to progress to where I am today. And previously, I've also worked in counterterrorism policing as well. I was there for 5 years and progressed to become a higher performance analyst, which was really, really interesting. But again, faced a lot of significant barriers and challenges along the way as well, which I'm going to be talking about later on. Touching upon key themes such as imposter syndrome, some of the adversities and challenges and the impact that those experiences have had on me, and also how it's shaped who I am today, and helped me to build really, really valuable skill sets such as courage, resilience, and, the tenacity to want to, and the motivation to want to drive really, really impactful changes and long-lasting change, regardless of how difficult it may feel at the time. I was hoping to have a Q&A session at the end, however, unfortunately, of course, it's not going to be a LinkedIn Live event. So if anyone does have any questions that they wanted to ask me, please feel free to message me privately on LinkedIn, and I will aim to get back to you to talk about those challenges and those barriers and those down days and, the times where we do hit obstacles, and roadblocks. Today is a prime example of that. I was meant to organise a LinkedIn Live event and it just didn't happen for me. Unfortunately, I didn't download the correct streaming device. So I've ultimately learned from that experience. So going forward, that's something that I'm going to prepare for ahead of time. So that's just a prime example, of the fact that, we can come across obstacles at any point, but it's how we overcome those obstacles and reach the other end and learn from it. That's what matters the most. And I think, we're constantly bombarded with really, really toxic positivity messages. Keep positive, stay strong, you'll be absolutely fine if you'll do this. And what they don't teach you is how you overcome challenges, how you overcome barriers, the journey that it took you to get to where you are or where you were before to where you are now. That's what matters the most. Things that I've been campaigning for within the Metropolitan Police Service. And they range from promoting equity actually for underrepresented groups, and also raising awareness around things like neurodiversity, disability, parenting, being a single parent as well, and challenges that single parents face in the working space, and also drawing upon LGBTQ plus issues as well. So a variety of things. So and of course talking about misogyny and racism, which are two of the overarching and key themes that have been highlighted actually within the Baroness Casey review as well, which I'm currently supporting. For me, it's not just about employing a bunch more people from minoritized backgrounds. It's about creating a more inclusive and equitable environment so that we can, everyone can feel safer and everyone can feel more confident in bringing their true selves into the workplace, and being able to talk about things openly like culture, racism, misogyny, and our lived experiences, without that fear of being ostracized or facing repercussions from doing so. I've constantly been told to, remain positive and don't talk about negative things and don't talk about those negative experiences. We just want to focus on the interventions, the positive interventions that we're doing. Just talk about those things. Don't talk about the statistics because it makes us look bad. And I've always been really, really, really strong on that stance. And that is, I'm not willing to hide anything from anyone. I feel that, it's really, really important to be open and honest with people around where we stand and the issues that we have, because, if we're not able to acknowledge that we have concerns and we have issues around cultural and professional standards, that we're not going to be able to move anywhere. Having been an analyst previously, and I pulled out some key themes, including things like, the huge pay gaps between ethnic minorities, individuals from ethnic minority backgrounds and females, and the majority demographic. So, despite the fact that there are, recruitment drives to recruit more individuals from diverse communities, when we look at representation within senior ranks and influential roles, it's still extremely low, and it just seems to remain stagnant. So those are one of the things that I have been really, really keen to address. And the reason being is because those influential roles, those senior roles, and those board meetings are essentially where key decisions are made around policies and processes that are ultimately going to impact our communities. And it's not just enough to focus and improve on diversity numbers. Without that inclusion and equity element, nothing is going to change. And that's something, again, that I'm really, really keen to emphasize and address. Emphasizing is the fact that there are so many benefits of improving diversity representation across all ranks. So there are research studies and academic reports out there that you can find on the internet that showcase really, really great benefits of improving representation, at all levels, from practitioner level to senior levels as well, because it sort of fosters that more inclusive and equitable culture, an environment where everyone feels valued, and appreciated and confident enough to bring their true selves, authentic selves, into the workplace. And I believe that by exposing individuals or colleagues to, people from various backgrounds, encourages a more kind of diverse and inclusive mindset, because it allows individuals to better understand one another and kind of gain an understanding of different perspectives, and it encourages more empathy as well for those unique struggles that individuals face, especially from marginalized groups. And again, that will then subsequently have a positive impact on retention rates, as employees will feel more inclined to stay within that organization if they feel more valued. And that again has a knock-on effect on public confidence in policing, because if individuals or police officers have a better understanding and more empathy for marginalised groups, then they're more likely to improve the way that they deliver services to the communities. And as it stands, London is around approximately 40% comprised of 40% ethnic minority individuals, and over 50% of individuals within London are females as well. And at the moment, the representation with the police is definitely not reflective of that diversity. So that's why it's so important to improve representation. I've been in the Metropolitan Police for 14 and a half years now, and I started shortly after graduating from university with a degree in psychology and sociology. And I've always been fascinated with the human psyche and how that links in with behaviours and physiology as well, actually. And essentially how our subconscious, so those thoughts that are sitting in the back of our minds, how it impacts on the way that we perceive other individuals and make decisions in life. And having delved into a bit of Jungian psychology, which is based on some of the work that Carl Jung did. So just a bit of background, Carl Jung is one of the OGs of psychology, and particularly around analytical psychology. And some of the key themes that I drew from that is, understanding that sometimes the way that we act and behave, it delves from our inner dialogue. And that is essentially shaped by things like our environment, and our external influences, so who we surround ourselves with, the company that we keep, friends, family, lived experiences, and of course, genetics do have a role to play in who we are and our personalities. But essentially, a lot of those environmental factors do help us to shape our core values, those inner biases, and we can train ourselves to become more aware of those biases, but they will still be there. And that's why it's so important to make a concerted effort to understand differences and create a more diverse and inclusive environment. And it's so important because it will then reduce that risk of affinity bias, which is all about having preference over individuals who look like us, who talk like us, or who are from similar backgrounds to us, especially when it comes to things like promotions and recruitment, even things like disciplinary, stop and searches, and how victims are treated as well. So it has an impact on all of that. So that's the reason why it's so important to improve diversity of individuals and improve representation, because that way we get to understand different experiences and different challenges, and we get to remove or reduce that level of bias, especially in organisations where there is a huge lack of representation and understanding of diversity and inclusion, is a clique culture. And the danger of having clique cultures is that it then perpetuates and enhances those biases and that disproportionality and discrimination and a lot of those issues, because underrepresented groups then are too afraid to voice their opinions or challenge inequalities, because there are not many individuals who are willing to stick by them and support them through it. Because there is that fear of being ostracized from the dominant group within your organization. And having said that, I do also believe that there are individuals out there who are very aware of and proud of their core beliefs. And some of those core beliefs may be aligned to values that are the complete opposite of diversity, equity and inclusion, racial and gender equality, and those behaviours are then as a result of conscious decisions that are made based on those core beliefs. And I strongly believe that in those cases, those individuals should not be working in certain roles, including, public facing roles where they have to, have empathy and compassion for others, for victims, because their attitudes are so strong that they are unable to treat anyone who's different to them with complete dignity and respect. And that is something that I do genuinely feel strongly about and stick by. Previously, despite being promoted along the way, I've also faced really, really significant challenges along the way, such as divorce, single parenting, and then there's all office politics, including things like bullying, misogyny, racism at times as well. And, I've also experienced things like harassment and domestic abuse, domestic violence. And unfortunately, some of my experiences as a victim, having reported those crimes, even though I worked in the police, was extremely poor. And I remember on one occasion when I had to give an interview, as I had to give my statement. It was a video interview actually, and I remember walking out that police station feeling extremely shaken by that whole experience, and I felt really judged, and it was not a great experience at all. And I from that day that's when I truly understood and empathize with so many other individuals out there who are too afraid to come forward and speak out, because it's essentially re-traumatizing yourself by having to go through the ordeal and explain it in detail as well. And especially if you're sitting opposite someone who lacks that compassion and understanding, it's overall just a horrendous experience, unfortunately. But having said that, that was not my experience with all police officers. There were some police officers who were absolutely fantastic, and so compassionate and supportive. And they did everything that they could in their power to really, really help and support me. But unfortunately, there may have been instances where their superiors were not as supportive, and understanding, because I'm in a policing background, I really did understand that. But of course that didn't help me, and it doesn't help other individuals get to a much better place emotionally and mentally as well. And how I got there was actually, the biggest thing that helped me to get there was having my support network. That is the biggest thing that helped me. And there were other factors as well. Having fantastic CBT sessions with through the NHS, and also my friends and some of my fellow colleagues as well, who were absolutely amazing and supportive. That is what helped me through everything. And it encouraged me to want to utilize that negative experience to then drive some really, really important changes so that other individuals wouldn't have to go through that same process. By organising a face-to-face listening circle, I got together with 4 of my fantastic colleagues, all with a variety of skill sets that they could bring to the table as well. And it was attended by around 26 women, all with stories from a variety of themes, from bullying to racism, misogyny, homophobia. But one of the overarching themes that we picked up was around victimization and bullying following reporting or following, submitting grievances or raising concerns. And that was something that, we all resonated with. Being ostracized, recommendations, because at that point we were like, okay, we need to keep the momentum going, and we can't stop here. And we didn't want this. So wanting to keep the momentum going, I knocked on a lot of doors, seniors, wanting to find some allies to help support this work that we were doing. And unfortunately, I had a lot of doors closed in my face. Because I was very open and candid with these inequalities and concerns across various OCUs, and because I was very, I challenged seniors, it left a sour taste in a lot of individuals' mouths, unfortunately. But there were seniors out there who were willing to listen, and I felt who had a lot of empathy and compassion. One of those individuals, thankfully, was Assistant Commissioner of Specialist Operations. And he agreed to actually attend the following listening circle. An assistant commissioner attend one of our listening circles in person was a really momentous experience for a lot of us, because we finally felt as though we were being heard. For so long we've been saying these things, and all of it was in the Baroness Casey review. So much of it was being spewed by the media, but for some reason we still felt like we were not being listened to. So at that point, it was a bit of a relief, I think, for us, for everyone in that room. And I remember there were around 60 women who attended in person, and so many of them stood up, and honestly, I have to really highlight their courage and their resilience, and the strength that it took them to come into the office, come into that room on that day and talk about their adverse experiences and their challenges and how it impacted on them. And the seniors that did attend that session left that room feeling really, really emotional, because that was the first time they actually really hit home. I think being there in person and listening to those accounts in person, or 2 went by, and I was chasing up those actions, recommendations that we made with the seniors, and the responses that I got were, we're dealing with it, and there is a culture change department that is doing things and putting things in place. But then when I spoke to these women and other individuals who were going through difficult times, they were still going through those difficult times. So I just thought, okay, you know what? No, that's not enough. We need to do a lot more than that. And every day that we spend waiting is another day that someone else or someone is suffering in silence. So I kind of utilized the time that I had to gather, data. So I conducted surveys to get feedback from individuals. I looked at HR workforce data to, pull out key themes such as, exit interviews, looking at information around representation across different ranks, just sort of pulling together different data sets. And I then put together a comprehensive report which had a list of lots of actions and recommendations, and also a bit of a strategic plan around our proposed initiatives. I have organised some coffee mornings that I held bi-monthly online, where we talk about concerns, and we give updates, as well as supporting one another and signposting as well. So The Safe Circle Network support group that I organised and put together started off as, from one person, which was me, to 5 individuals. And now it's around 150 individuals who have joined the Safe Circle Network group. And I understand that it's not a solution to the problems that we have in terms of culture and professional standards, but just being in solidarity with one another and creating that strong support network of individuals with shared values around courage and empathy, integrity, respect, and being anti-racist, anti-misogynist, anti-homophobic is just so uplifting and empowering. I'm a lead facilitator and project manager for a leadership program that was created off the back of the Race Action Plan to improve opportunities for underrepresented groups within the Metropolitan Police Force. And these sessions are also co-facilitated along with our partners at Ernst & Young and Delta Alpha Psi, who had helped to create these amazing programs, which I have to say are fantastic. Again, it's absolutely not going to fix the problem that the organisation has in relation to cultural and professional standards. But again, it has been incredibly validating and encouraging for so many of our colleagues who have faced discrimination, etc. Creating that kind of strong support network. I managed to push my way into supporting and contributing towards the Race Action Plan. I'm also a member of the Diversity, Inclusion and Equity Consortium Board, which is run by the National Police Chiefs Council. So I do have some platforms where I can leverage some of these actions and recommendations that I have gathered, which is good. So I urge anyone who is looking to leverage some sort of change to try and find a senior ally and also get that seat on the table, at these board meetings where you can make those influential changes to policies. Do I still face challenges to this day? Yes, I do actually. Yeah, absolutely. Do I still come across individuals who have tried to shoehorn me back into a box, who try and undermine my work and have tried to bring me down? Yep, that has happened as well. That's still happening now. Have I been blocked from promotions because of the fact that I've been really outspoken? Yep, that's happened too. And again, there are times where I do feel down, where it does all get on top of me, and that imposter syndrome sets in, and it does sort of leave me feeling as though I'm not good enough. I'm not a good leader. But again, having that right support network around me and understanding that negative treatment or behaviour from others is rooted from their own insecurities and their prejudices and their biases, it just helps me to kind of understand things better. Understand that it's not on me, it's on them. And understanding that will essentially help you raise your spirits again. And it absolutely helps me to raise my value of getting uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. Raising your head above the parapet and believing in your abilities and doing the right thing, no matter how difficult it may be, because that is what continues to fuel your confidence and resilience, and it fuels mine. Even doing this LinkedIn live event, which again was an absolute fail the first time round, I've never done anything like this before, so I had to essentially get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So when I tried to log into that event and I couldn't, it was a very much of an OMG moment where I thought to myself, okay, I've hit a stumbling block. I'm definitely not good enough for this, and I shouldn't have organised this event. And then again, I had to kind of raise my spirits again, and I just thought, okay, what can I do to fix this issue? There's nothing that I can do now because I can't run this event online. It's too late for me to stream another platform. So what I can do is just let everyone know, and then I will record the session and post it online. So that's what I'm going to do. It's just an example of hitting a stumbling block and how to overcome it. And thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's session, and again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, send me a private message, and again, I will do my best to answer those messages at the earliest opportunity. Thank you so much.